Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us for Energy IP. My name is Nicole Bamford, and I'm the moderator for today's event. On behalf of Leslie, Quinn, Candace, Grant, and I, we thank you for joining us. This presentation, The End of Spreadsheet Collaboration, Building an Internal IP Knowledge Network, will be given by Alexander Spencer, Regional Account Manager at Mindsoft, and Moira Seville, Project Manager and Customer Success Executive at Mindsoft, and their presentation promises to be well worth a listen. Before we get started, here are some quick administrative points. During the webinar, if you have questions for the presenters, please submit them in the Q&A box on your screen, and these will be answered during the question portion of the session. Likewise, for any technical issues, please write them into the Q&A box and we'll get to them right away. The widgets on your screen can be resized and dragged around for your viewing preferences. We encourage you to visit the Resource Center on your screen for additional content and resources we and our sponsors have provided for you. So make sure you're sitting comfortably, and I'll now hand it over to Alexandra so we can begin.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So hello, everybody, and thank you for joining our presentation today. I'm going to start the talk with a brief introduction of who we are and what we do. Mindsoft develops online solutions for the IP industry, from patent databases to legal alerts and competitive intelligence systems. We work with businesses from SMEs to multinational corporations and everything in between. We help them with their innovation strategies and find the right solution to suit their individual needs. Mindsoft was founded in 1996, and over the past 20-plus years, we foster relationships with top patent offices around the world to build a backlog of high-quality and comprehensive data, which our users rely on for tactical decision-making and actionable intelligence every day. So why patents? For any innovation-driven industry, it's crucial to be aware of the IP landscape in your technology area. For example, consider the fact that 70 to 80% of scientific and technological information is available only in patents, according to a study by the World Intellectual Property Organization. By not monitoring this effectively, how much actionable intelligence is your company missing out on? The rate of new inventions has been continuing to increase. The European Patent Office reported a 4% increase in patent applications in 2019 compared to 2018, a new all-time high. As a result, investing in resources to take advantage of this knowledge mine remains hugely important for any innovative company, regardless of whether it's an SME or multinational corporation. By ignoring and/or undervaluing IP, businesses can be driven into risky situations, such as opening up your company to infringement proceedings, which could result in further loss of profits and harm your long-term corporate survivability, or the possibility of competitors taking advantage of your own technological innovations. Taking into consideration how important this information is, I'd like to pause here and run the first poll. Is your company currently taking advantage of this data by using a patent database to search and analyze patent information? Yes, using a commercial database. Yes, using a free database. Yes, using an external company to run patent searches for you, or none of the above. I'll just give everybody a few more seconds to respond to the poll. Ah, very interesting. That's a good result to see. Patents are a well-codified, fully searchable, and readily available pool of competitive, legal, and R&D intelligence waiting to be exploited. Those diving in are faced with challenges of volume and accessibility, but perseverance and the employment of a specialist database and advanced knowledge management solutions such as PACKM that automate many of the processes will pay off in terms of the wealth of insights gained. So what do we mean by an IP knowledge management solution? Most companies that we speak to are still relying on static spreadsheets to manage their patent data and apply internal insights. This might be done by exporting a results set from whichever patent database the company uses, adding their own notes against publication numbers, and then filing away this document. Once you start sharing this Excel file around, it can get messy fast. there's a lot of room for error and no way to track who has added what. With limited searching capabilities in Excel, once the data has been exported, it can be very hard to manage and capture intelligence. For global operations, it's easy to become decentralized and struggle to come up with workflows that facilitate working across borders and business units. For any innovation-driven industry, IP awareness is crucial from the top down. So how can you cater for diverse user groups with different levels of IP expertise, functions, and backgrounds? An internal IP knowledge management network helps to mitigate these challenges by providing an all-in-one system to monitor the IP landscape and direct relevant documents between departmental experts in a configurable manner that suits a range of scenarios. I'm going to pause again here for our second poll. Are you currently using Excel spreadsheets to manage patent data? Do you mainly use Excel to manage your patent data internally? Do you have a knowledge management system set up? Or do neither of these options apply? Like last time, I'm just going to give people a few more seconds to answer the poll. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting result. Most people that we do speak to are still using Excel, so hence the reason it's today's topic. Companies can utilize IP knowledge management networks to facilitate knowledge sharing within multiple business units, even across borders. Monitoring new documents and information, adding information internally where necessary, and then indexing, classifying, and distributing information directly to the interested parties within the organization. All employees can access the influx of new patent applications from around the world, whatever their level of IP expertise, with access to a shared system. The network can be used not only to capture, archive, and disseminate valuable IP data, but also as a training tool to get employees to a point where IP is embedded into all thought processes, from the launch of a product to the beginning of a new project. Using an IP knowledge management tool to spread IP awareness throughout an organization. Finding a way to communicate the importance of IP to the executive branch is a good starting point of any IP awareness strategy. With their approval, IP or patent departments can easily get buy-in for IP integration into key strategies and day-to-day processes. This could be done by establishing a monthly forum to give management teams the opportunity to discuss IP-related matters. For example, studying patent literature as a source of competitive intelligence, identify competitor action as foreshadowed by newly published patents could be used to inform future offensive or defensive strategy, to counter emerging threats or capitalize on opportunities to outmaneuver competitors. Patents are indicative of modern innovation trends and contain important technical information, as applicants must describe and explain their inventions in a clear and complete way. As such, a company's R&D team must be kept aware of the IP landscape to track emerging technologies and the actions of the competition, ensuring that their current projects are on trend whilst avoiding potential duplication as well as freedom to operate pitfalls. In the past, the IP or legal department of a company may have presented R&D departments with a stack of patent documents to be reviewed, but a knowledge management network can help share this information more efficiently for greater insight and traceability. Analyzing patent information will help an organization to improve its overall understanding, not only about competitors, but about where it sits in relation to the global field of activity. Importantly, it can give a more informed basis for business decisions about the future direction of the company, and due to this, patent information and patent analysis is being given more weight in boardrooms. Heightened awareness of IP can help businesses to identify competitor infringement of the company's patents. Therefore, if inventors, strategists, and marketers have a better understanding of IP and know what the business has protected recently, they can also spot and report potential infringements when they come across them. Monthly IP meetings between department heads from R&D, legal, IP, and the C-suite are no longer enough to educate on the value of IP company-wide. In these situations, having an effective IP knowledge management solution can be beneficial to incorporate internal company workflows and custom taxonomies to help manage patent knowledge globally throughout the organization. Transforming the workflow lifecycle. Let's imagine that a company is preparing a project to break into a new technology area. A freedom to operate has already been completed by in-house counsel and determined that there are currently no existing patents that will be infringed by the new invention. With the deployment of a knowledge management solution, the IP or legal team can work alongside the technical team to set up relevant alerts for the new technology area that they are entering. These alerts can continue to monitor the area to ensure that high-risk patents aren't being granted in the jurisdictions of interest. Should a new patent emerge before the project is complete, it may well be more cost-effective to abandon the internal project and seek a license, rather than continue and risk infringement in key jurisdictions. Alert results can be set up to move out to recipients automatically, or some companies might prefer to tailor their system to route all information via the IP team by a manual process, should tighter control be a requirement for your business processes. In another example, competitive patents which are flagged by these current awareness alerts can be routed to the appropriate subject matter experts for initial inspection, categorization, and tagging. Depending on what this initial inspection finds, secondary routing to business unit leaders, IP legal counsel, or other departments can be automatic, thereby allowing the full chain of knowledge to be captured and shared to the right groups of people across the IP lifecycle. Similarly, a company's own patent portfolio can be categorized in a hierarchical classification tree, so the portfolio organization mimics the structure which the executives choose to see. Effective knowledge sharing is possible even with users that are outside the technical and legal sphere, such as section heads or company directors, who can request a summary of the new information on a particular topic for review. For example, the CEO could choose to check certain documents, monitor a potential licensing opportunity, and receive a selection of documents matched to their interests based on the human actions taken by the legal or technical teams throughout the previous week, ensuring that all information that crosses their desk is relevant and important to business. Implementing a knowledge management solution in 3 phases. Phase 1, exploration. Once you've identified that there is a need in your organization for a more efficient knowledge management network, you need to identify who the key contacts and users are in your organization. This could be members of the C-suite who will need to be kept informed on any strategic business intelligence or risk of infringement, or perhaps the entire R&D department needs access to spot emerging trends and identify white space. Once you've identified who the key users and contacts will be, discuss internally what their exact needs are and how you can meet them. Once you've identified your key users and their needs, it's time to start screening suppliers and find out what is out there to meet your requirements. Most service providers will start with a demonstration of the solution and then leave you to explore on your own in a free trial period. I'm going to pause again here for our third and final question. How much capital does your company invest in IP-related tools per annum? Less than 10,000, 10 to 20,000, or more than 20,000? Just give people a few more seconds to answer the poll. It's a very interesting stat. Microsoft's knowledge management solution, PATKM, is adaptable to a customer's needs. Our off-the-shelf system is relied on by some of the world's best-known and leading companies. PATKM can be thought of as a software solution overlay on the data available in PatBase, an online patent database, granting your users the benefit of access to the wide range of search and analysis tools available within the PatBase system. as well as the additional fields and rules set up for your personal archive. Users can benefit from access to comprehensive, shareable, and searchable legal status information, citation tracking tools, high-quality machine translations, and more. Phase 2, setup. Now that you've chosen the right knowledge management solution for your organization, the next stage is to have some intense technical discussions to decide how the fields applied would match your own business model. For example, setting up your internal multi-level classification tree and discussing customizing possibilities to make the system work efficiently for you. Customizing features could be as simple as adding in tooltips which explain the taxonomy classifications, and this could be particularly useful for non-obvious sublevels of the classification tree, so users know exactly what they are tagging to. More complex customizing features could introduce rules such as automatic tagging, saving time in the workflow reviewing process. Next, send the clearly defined fields that you would like to have included and any customization requests to your service provider, so they can begin building your tailored knowledge management network. Once the initial system has been built, the service provider can set up a pilot phase, where a small group of users will have a walkthrough of the new system and workflow process. You can take as much time as you need to test it out and make sure it works for the different levels of users, as they will be assigned different rights and roles in the system. Phase 3, implementation and rollout. After the pilot phase, the service provider can make further adjustments to the field setup, customizations, and internal workflows. The next stage is data migration, where the organization needs to send over their data. As an example, this could be in the form of a spreadsheet with a list of publication numbers and any assigned information. With PACAM, we will handle the preparation and upload of all of this historic data, mapping information from the spreadsheet to the field set up in phase 2. With everything finalized, all levels of user groups will go through unlimited training with the experienced support team, either virtually or in person. When you're ready, your new knowledge management solution will be rolled out. Our current clients who have gone through this process have reported increased IP awareness across the organization, an improvement in IP expertise levels, better cooperation between departments and across borders, and widespread acceptance and usage of the system. Protecting, monitoring, and investing in your company's intellectual property is beneficial to companies of all sizes. IP protection is crucial to avoid having your unique ideas, products, or services infringed upon. Even huge corporations can have their ideas infringed upon, requiring multi-million-pound lawsuits. The massive ongoing disputes between technology giants are an active example of the vast amounts of money spent on and the importance of protecting IP. In addition to this, patents are the most comprehensive source of ideas available and therefore invaluable for an effective R&D strategy, as well as competitive and business intelligence purposes, giving a company advance warning of emerging threats and opportunities. The retrieval and assessment of patent data provides insights into potential collaborators, technology trends, and competitor activity. It's crucial to share this information in a manner that is easily understandable, contains the correct amount of information, and can either lead to inspirational discussions or groundbreaking ideas. Knowing what is happening in your own technological field is what the future is looking like. It is extremely important in today's fast-changing world, and patents are very often the first indication of new inventive steps. This point alone is why thousands of companies globally research and monitor the patents that they are being published every week to keep abreast of disruptive innovations and to forecast what changes they should also be making to meet the future head-on. With disruptive technologies often arising from SMEs with more flexibility and propensity for risk-taking, R&D departments from large corporations and other SMEs should be monitoring these new technologies, as they could be signposts for industry growth and development. In the European Commission's report, Why Researchers Should Care About Patents, it's estimated that up to 30% of all R&D spending is wasted on redeveloping existing solutions. In the UK, this means over £10 billion of R&D expenditure. Doing preliminary research ensures that at the end of your R&D project, if you wanted to file for a patent, you aren't unknowingly infringing on someone else's idea. Considering how important this information is, it's vital for companies to invest in the right resources that can help them to manage, distribute, and archive this data efficiently. PatKM, used together with a searchable database such as PatBase, provides access to global patent data with integrated workflow for monitoring, classifying, and disseminating relevant patent records. As a knowledge management solution, it represents an evolution away from the usual one-size-fits-all solution towards a more bespoke approach that can adapt and change based on client needs and feedback to changing scenarios. Thank you very much for listening. We will now move on to the Q&A section.
Great. Thanks, Alexander. And for those in the audience, if you do have questions, we do have some time, so please send them in. First question we have here is, could you give some more examples of the type of customization requests that you normally get?
Yep, my name's Laura, and I'm going to be answering the Q&A today. So for the first question, customization could be very simple. The simple ones include just adding a tooltip. And this is useful for users that are in different stages of the workflow, as they know exactly what certain classifications mean. So, for example, if you just had a short code there like A16, the tooltip could give more information on what that classification relates to. And some other simple customizations also include adding in your own logo. And this is important as you can then see if you were doing any screenshots or anything like that, it would be useful to see your own logo attached onto it. You can also add in links, and these could link to your own company intranet for additional information. Some more complex customization could introduce some rules. So, for example, some custom validation rules. If we had a radio button that was ticked, it could mean that something else later on in the process is no longer a mandatory completion. So rules like that you can then implement to make the workflow more simplified or more complex if necessary.
Great. Thank you, Moira. Next question is, how long does the setup take from start to finish?
So if we're starting from the very beginning of the process, which is finding the right IP solution for your own company, then it depends how many solution providers you're comparing to. So if you were comparing PatKM, this would involve a demo and then a trial phase. This would typically be maybe 2 to 3 weeks. And then if you are comparing obviously other companies as well, then this length of time could be a bit longer. But once you transition from the demo phase and then you decide to implement the new knowledge management system, and then it could take a couple of weeks to set this up. So first you'll have the field setup phase. But if you have done the demo, you should already have an idea of how you'd like your knowledge management solution to look. So it would already have helped from the trial phase. You would then set up any pattern alerts, and these could be quite simple if you're just converting them from PatBase to a PatKM alert. But also it's also possible for us to change this if you're using a different patent database provider. You then also have the workflow setup, so that would be identifying which groups your company splits along, so any R&D users, your reviewers, inspectors, and you set these up as separate groups so they can use the workflow setup later on. You then can decide if you want any customization, so those were the ones I mentioned previously, any simple or more complex customization. Naturally, the more complex ones take a little bit longer for our dev team to create. And then finally, once you complete all those steps, I'd say the typical time would be about 2 to 3 weeks as well. You then have the data migration, and just depending on how much data you have, this may or may not be longer. And once this is rolled out live, it doesn't mean that you can't change anything. Any corrections and adjustments, or if you're just updating your classifications, these can be made after as well. So you don't have to do everything in the one go. If you are wanting to decide later on to add any other features, that is also possible.
Great, thank you. And next question is, what is the cost?
So with the cost, for if you wanted a direct quote, it would be best to contact Alexander. So his email was on the screen earlier, and he'll be able to offer you a demo as well as a trial period. Because the cost of the product depends a lot on the individual company needs. For example, how much customization is required, the size of your IP team, so how many IDs you would require to access the product. And if you did have more complex data migration, that's not a simple mapping, then it may take a little longer to implement. But for a direct quote, it's best to email us directly, and they'll be able to offer you the quote. So just for Alex's email, it's Alexander, so that's ALEXANDER @mindsoft.com.
Great, thanks, Moira. And the next one is more of a comment, not a question, but just from the audience. Amazing presentation and insights, and it says thanks to Mindsoft, so that's a nice comment. Great, well, thank you very much, Alexander and Moira, for your interesting and informative webinar. For those in the audience, if you want to listen again, this webinar will be available on demand shortly. And finally, thank you to you wherever you are for taking the time to listen in. We look forward to having you on the next session starting in just a few moments. And again, thank you so much, Alexander and Moira, for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.